Before we begin, thank you very much to Fun Size Convoy for pitching in over on Ko-fi, where we've hit the point where I genuinely cannot tell if I have shouted these out before, but I do not recall that one. I'm trying not to repeat. I'm trying very hard. But thank you very much for the contribution. Thank you very much for the support. It keeps the channel going, keeps the daily content coming. And today, we need to discuss noise. So, Hasbro has been putting out some things on their official Instagram and basically all their socials, teasing something about the 1986 Transformers movie. And all they keep saying is just like, they put out a video, and at the end it says, just has like 72 hours to go, 48 hours to go, tomorrow, the dawn of the final day, 24 hours remains before Unicron hits Earth, or whatever. So we have no idea what this is. It really is just like teaser material. This could be absolutely anything. It could be the announcement of the next toy line after Age of the Primes. It could be the reveal of like the Kranix figure that we have been waiting for, though that would be a lot of build up to something that fairly inconsequential, honestly. Could just be a run of the 86 movie in theaters, or a brand new like home Blu-ray release, whatever. There's a lot of people speculating on what exactly it is going to be. I'll give you my 2 cents here right now. The only thing I think this is going to be, I think this is going to be the official announcement of the 86 Matrix of Leadership. Because, one, that is a big deal toy. Hasbro's never actually made a prop replica Matrix of Leadership toy before. It's been a statue here and there by another company, or those like plastic ones that came out like last year, but no official one, nothing that actually constitutes a real toy. So that's basically what I'm expecting. Like if the teaser tomorrow includes a clip of Unicron or Rodimus inside Unicron opening up the Matrix, that's pretty much what I'm going to lock in on. We won't know till Friday. But it does get a lot of people talking about a lot of hypothetical situations, and the one I see the most is, does this mean a new Unicron toy is on the way? So there's a few things that line up with this. Not only the fact that it is, the anniversary of the original Transformers movie and the first appearance of Unicron, but it has also been 5 years since we got the HasLab Unicron in hand, and we really haven't had anything Unicron toy-wise since then. Outside of like the head that Blocky's released, pretty much everything else has been, for the most part, just kind of like, we checked off the biggest box we could, and we're just kind of going to ride on that. So now we get to speculate exactly what this is going to be. I'm going to entertain this idea. I'm not convinced it's going to be a Unicron for reasons I will get into here in a minute. But for now, we're going to speculate on whether it is time for a new Unicron toy or not, and whether or not I think this is like an announcement of the next HasLab, which we're getting about to the point where that is a thing. I'm still of the mindset they should not announce a HasLab until Lyle Kaiser comes out, and we know for a fact Lyle Kaiser came out good, because you need to reinstate the trust we have before you do something this big and expensive. But let's just kind of start with like the boxes, okay? So there is the idea of, well, maybe this is a rerun of the original mold. Now, I don't think they're actually going to rerun the figure, because that would screw over a lot of people who paid $575 for this monolith, just to be told, oh, hey, it's not going to be as limited as you thought. We're actually just going to make more, so suck it. That would be against the spirit of HasLab and kind of betray user trust in a time when we've already had our trust betrayed by Omega Prime's whole situation. So I don't think it's going to be a straight reissue of the figure. Now, that said, Hasbro has indicated in the past that repaints are not off the table, because that would technically constitute a new toy. So we know this because someone has actually messaged Evan and actually gotten the response. Does mean, and it was about Splendid Convoy. A lot of people were asking if Omega Prime could ever be redone into Splendid Convoy, and the response was that they don't take anything off the table, which basically just means we'll consider anything, but it doesn't indicate likelihood. I think it is extremely unlikely that anything produced HasLab is ever going to end up something that something you can buy again in any way, shape, or form. But since everything's on the table, that does mean there is a little bit of room, isn't there? So a repaint of 86 Unicron, a repaint of actually this is Siege. We're talking about Siege here. A repaint of that Unicron in just more accurate colors may not necessarily be off the table. So if you look at the colors, if you look at the two, yeah, there are adjustments you can make color wise. The orange on the toy could definitely be a little bit richer. I would say a little bit, maybe a little bit less blue in the legs as I look at. Yes, I have one. I have one. Looking at it is over to my left. For the most part, the colors are right. So a repaint is theoretically possible, but honestly, not all of that likely. Honestly, here's the thing about the Unicron toy is that it did come out during War for Cybertron. It had a lot of that design aspect behind Siege and Earthrise. A lot of that went into the design process. So if you've ever seen it, go back a couple slides. Didn't prepare this properly. It's very heavily detailed and greebled, which you would want out of a large figure like this, but that doesn't necessarily make it accurate to how he appeared in the movie. He is filled with the things that you would get at the time. A lot of details all over the place. Extra paint apps where they really shouldn't exist on the original design. Those little 3mm pegs sticking out of various parts of him. So you can attach blast effects. Kind of makes the Unicron look like he has zits or something. So there is room for this. There is actually room for this. But when I look at that and I see all those little things that the Siege mindset brought onto that toy, I start thinking more along the lines of, why don't we just retool it? I wouldn't repaint it. I'd tool it to make it look and feel different from the previous one. And in that, there are a lot of things you could do. You could smooth out the surfaces because, in any far shot of Unicron, they don't really show up. So if they're on the toy, they should be very faint and light. If you want to go back and redo some of the details, because the details, honestly, are inconsistent from shot to shot because it's Sunbow. It's just how 80s animation was animated. Details weren't always 100% consistent. So you could go back and retool a lot of that in to make him a little bit more accurate to the movie. I mean, if we're really going all out here, Unicron in the toy of Unicron has 8 abs. The one in the movie only has 6. So even a big detail like that was incorrect on the toy. You have room for this, and even if it's okay in this, that I think is even still unlikely because that still infringes on the original toy. But if it's not a repaint, if it's not a retool, that really only leaves us in one direction. It would be a whole new toy. And now we do know from Studio One Cell, you can accomplish a Unicron transformation, getting that ball and its wings into a robot mode that looks, relatively clean. You can actually accomplish that. We see the proof on screen right now. I do take issue with this figure. It does things that I do not like. I do not like how spindly and thin the wings are. That is absolutely something that can be changed. I don't like how thick the gray ring in the beast. I almost said beast mode. In the planet mode is, and how small the maw is. Things like that you could potentially also change up. Basically, we have proof that toy can be done better. The big criticism of HasLab Unicron is that it's basically building a plastic lasagna when you transform it. You're taking panels upon panels of all these heavy panels and you are crunching them together to fit on the back of the leg or to fit on his back. And really, there's some transforming to him, but not as much as you would think for how radically different his two modes are. You know, he's a shell former. There's no other way to say it. You have Cell here on the screen, who obviously is not. So there is absolutely room to have done this a little bit cleaner. And I could understand Hasbro wanting another crack at it. I mean, it's Unicron. It's one of the literal biggest characters they have, and they very, very rarely actually manage to make him. Now, the biggest reason I think it's not a new Unicron toy is literally everything else attached to this. Two major things for starters. Number one, the original Unicron most likely failed. So the original Unicron toy needed 8,000 backers in order to succeed, and in a month and a half failed to hit that mark. Actually, I think it was even longer than that. The campaign starts off like in the middle of July. You go August, and then August. So they gave you until October. So yeah, I guess I feel like there's like a month and a half, and then they extended it, or possibly 2 months, and then they extended it out. It's the only HasLab they ever extended the timer on, and that was probably because the price point was too huge for a lot of people to suddenly drop on a figure. Needed more time to save up and build up, which is the correct way to do that. You know, if they were to announce a brand new HasLab Unicron, you'd be thinking like, give me like a 2-month lead in before you start taking pre-orders. Like, give me like plenty of time to make sure I can actually swing this. And then there's that part where a lot of people would not be able to swing this. So if you take a look at the numbers, if you go by like inflation in the last 6 years, you already see that in even that short amount of time, $575 is up to now $715 with added tariffs, shipping, etc. You'd probably be looking at minimum $750 for this piece. And that's if Hasbro does eat some of the tariff costs themselves. So considering the toy barely got funded at $575, even if it's a new one, even if it's a more satisfying one, even if it is one that looks the way everyone wanted it to look, functions the way everyone wanted it to function, I still don't think you're going to be able to put it at a price that people can afford, because times are harder now than they were then. I don't foresee that happening. I don't foresee them taking the financial risk on something that big when it came this close to failing before. I am still of the mindset that Hasbro padded the numbers. So if you look, HasLab Unicron is the only one where they do not report an exact number of how many actually got backed. It's marked as 12,000 plus, even though if you checked the HTML code and saw the progress bar, the actual number was actually 11,000 something. So somewhere in there, some numbers got fudged. And I'm willing to bet that Unicron did not actually make its goal because of the price point. So where does that leave us? So I don't think the big teaser is honestly for a Unicron toy. I genuinely think it's going to be for the Matrix Leadership toy. I mean, we found out about that one about 7 months ago. That's about right. Between first initial internet listing to actual physical prototype that they're comfortable showing us, I think it's going to be that. I think the build up to a Unicron approaching is going to be that. Or maybe just like a range of 86 toys. They haven't shown off Kranix yet. We know that there are some 86 figures that are in the works that we have not seen. Astro Train and Blitzwing, for instance, have listings. And then, of course, the Matrix of Leadership, which I can imagine being the big deal that they would be teasing and hyping it up like this. So, if not a HasLab, let's put that aside. And let's just continue the thought process here. Is it time for a new Unicron toy? I mean, yes. Like, it's been 5 years since anyone got HasLab Unicron in hand. And like I said, we haven't really had any Unicron representation at the retail shelves since then. If we did get a modern day Unicron, I feel like it would be the Armada design, since that was the very first big Unicron toy that was out, and the one that turned into a planet mode for the first time. That was a lot of kids' Unicron. You know, and that's a lot of adult collectors Unicrons. Because remember, like the closer we got to like an actual like G1 Unicron was just when they retooled this thing more than once to try and get it as close to that as they could. So there's definitely a lot nostalgic for it. And also this one, again, could probably use for a redo. You know, this one was egg-shaped and very flat-backed on one side. So a proper one that was completely round and comes with a stand to sit in its proper orientation. Yeah, I could imagine that would be extremely popular. Oh, and to up the odds, there's a repaint baked in. So there you go with your like retail release Titan class figure, as well as its adjacent eventual like selects repaint that, you know, would eventually leak out into places like GameStop, you know, for the 6 GameStop locations that would be open by the time a new Unicron toy came out. But even that, I can tell you this, that like a brand new Unicron toy, even at like Titan size, it would have to be old school, like proper 2-foot tall Titan at minimum, not this truncated, shrunken down one that we got with Star Optimus, which means that you're talking like a $250, $300 figure. Now, if they're released in retail numbers, a $300 Unicron that actually looked good, people would jump at that, Armada or not. That one, I think people could actually swing. Still crazy expensive toy to release right now, but it's more feasible. Except the Titan size is already taken up this year. We're waiting somewhat eagerly to see what this Grimlock looks like in full colors, because that's really the next step. We've seen the prototype, we've seen pretty much everything about it, except what the colors are going to look like. So we're waiting on that. So Unicron really doesn't have a spot. Like anything less, you're not going to turn Unicron into a commander class or leader class. You know, that's absurd. You're not going to get that. Even if you wanted to be ballsy and do like Cybertron Unicron, like the little deluxe size tank guy, because in fiction he would have been about commander class. He would have been a little bit bigger. He would have been around that size. No, that's again lofty. Not happening. Now, it does seem like we're going to get some kind of Unicron attention because we do have a listing for the Unicron Soldier that confused everybody. Confused everybody until we saw this. So very likely Unicron Soldier is going to end up being Transformers Prime Unicron retooled from this guy. Seems right. I mean, I don't see any issue with that being a thing. So yeah, that's pretty much what that Unicron speculation is at the moment. That leader that we got coming out, I think, is the only real Unicron we're going to get. That's my honest opinion. So, as of this video, as of this recording, we still have 2 days to wait until we find out exactly what this teaser is. And keep in mind, Friday is, I believe, yeah, Friday is also when Takara Tomy is dumping all of those new reveals from all of their big collector lines for Transformers as well. We're going to have a ton of talk about this weekend. But until then, let the speculation commence. You have, by the time you see this, less than 2 days to actually get your guesses in. Leave them in the comments below and then come back on Friday and see who got it right. So, thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.